Everybody to the Jacob Edwards Library. I'm glad to see that there's still some people who are venturing out in the heat, but coming to the AC. Thank you for coming this evening. Our presentation this evening is brought to us by sponsorship from the Southbridge Cultural Council, and for whom we are very grateful because most of our programs are sponsored by the Southbridge Cultural Council. This evening we have Matt York. He's travelled right across the state to come to us, and we're very impressed about that. And he is going to do a show called The Highwaymen. And I think we're all going to be enthralled listening to some of the great favourites from the American Songbook. So
we'll see. I could disappoint you. You just don't know.
Oh, I don't think so. So.
Hi folks, I'll do a little spiel here where I talk at the beginning, and then I'll sing songs, I'll tell stories, but, you know, all the part of what you'd expect from a song and stories. So yeah, my name is Matt York, and I've been fortunate enough as an adult to be able to kind of travel all over the country performing my own music. I was a fairly precocious musician. I started playing the clubs in Boston when I was about 15 years old, and I've got to perform in places like Nashville and Los Angeles and New York and Austin, Texas, and a bunch of much less interesting places. But I started doing this project about the Highwaymen a little over a year ago. And for those of you that aren't familiar, the Highwaymen are Chris Christopherson, Waylon Jennings, Johnny Cash, and Willie Nelson. And all four of them had been a huge influence on my own music. And in the fall of October of 2020, I had the same corporate job for 20 years. As you might have guessed from someone that's driving all across the state when gas is $5 a gallon, I have a bachelor's degree in economics, and so I spent a lot of time looking at numbers and working in the corporate world. And I worked from home, so it was a nice deal where I could go, and if I was going down to Texas to play some shows, I could be wherever I was during the day and work, and then go and play at night. So it was a really good setup. And in the fall of 2020, I was laid off from my job, and 2 weeks later, my wife was laid off from her job, and 2 weeks after that, my dad passed away. And we have two wildly expensive teenage daughters, and we were really scrambling on what we were going to do. And so I started doing this thing that you're going to hear here for the next hour or so. And I did it somewhere about a year ago, and a person came up to me and they said, hey, you know, every town has these cultural council grants, and we think that what you're doing would be perfect. You should apply for one, and maybe you could come back here next year and do that. And so I went home to my wife, and I was like, I might not have to work. Like, I might be able to just sing Willie Nelson songs for like an hour, and people will pay me. And so I applied for as many grants for as many towns as I could apply to back in the fall when the window of time opened up that you could, the application process was open. And I started receiving results. I got 50 straight no's. And I was like, all right, around Thanksgiving, I was like, all right, it looks like I'm going to actually have to get a job. And but then I started getting yeses and more yeses and more yeses, and I received cultural council grants from 120 different towns and cities across Massachusetts. So I'm literally just crisscrossing the state. This is my, I think, sixth one of the week this week. I'm doing 75 of them between Memorial Day and Labor Day. So I'm out here right now. I'll be down the Cape tomorrow morning. I'll be in Boston tomorrow night, and it's so it's a lot of driving. It's awesome though. I love doing it, and I used to be a newspaper writer when I was younger, so I wrote a book about the Highwaymen, and I'll talk a little bit about that as well. But the experience itself has been really cool. I mean, for instance, I was in a town called Peru, Massachusetts. Does somebody know Peru?
Yeah, Western Mass.
Yeah, I guess I'm out here, right? Yeah, so Peru is celebrating their 250th anniversary as their birthday. I don't know what you would call it when your town turns 250 years old. And so they asked me to come out and be their musical guest. And so I did that on Saturday, and I was in North Adams the same day. And every little town in the Berkshires, I'm doing their summer concert series, and every little town down the Cape, I'm doing their summer concert series. So it's been a really fun experience. And the first song I'm going to do is a song that was written by Johnny Cash and made famous by Johnny Cash initially in the 1950s. And then when the Highwaymen formed in 1985, it was also included on their first album. And the great country musician Marty Stewart once said that there are two kinds of people. There are folks who love Johnny Cash's music, and there are those that will. And that has definitely been the case as I've gone around from town to town. So this is Big River. I taught the weeping willow how to cry, cry, cry. And I showed the clouds how to cover up a clear blue sky. The tears I cried for that woman, they're gonna flood you, Big River. I'm gonna sit right here until I die. I met her accidentally in St. Paul, Minnesota. It tore me up every time I heard her drawl, a southern drawl. I heard my dream was back down street, a boy named Davenport. And I followed you, Big River, when you called. Then you took me to St. Louis, later on, down the river. Operator said she's been here, but she's gone, boy, she's gone. I found her trail in Memphis, but she just walked up the block. She raised a few eyebrows, went on down the road. Now won't you better down by Baton Rouge, River Queen, rolling on. Take that woman on down to New Orleans, New Orleans. Go on, I've had enough, dump my blues down in the Gulf. She loves you, Big River, more than me. Now I've taught the weeping willow how to cry, cry, cry. And I showed the clouds how to cover a clear blue sky. The tears I cried for that woman, they're gonna flood you, Big River. And I'm gonna sit right here until I die. And I'm gonna sit right here until I die. And I'm gonna sit right here until I die. I'm going to do a Chris Christopherson song next that was made famous initially by Johnny Cash. As a kid growing up, the only thing I really knew about Chris Christopherson is that my mom thought he was really handsome, and that was about it. I thought of him as a movie star, I think, when I was a kid. I didn't know his music. And then through the years, I certainly got to know it. And he had an amazing story. His backstory is really remarkable. He was a Golden Gloves boxer. He was a pilot in the military. He was a Rhodes Scholar that studied at Oxford. He really had the pedigree of someone you might expect to come home and run for governor or senator or something. And instead, he moved to Nashville, and he got a job as a custodian at a recording studio down there, with the hope that he would get to meet Johnny Cash, and it worked. He got to meet Johnny Cash, and he got to give him some songs. And the song I'm going to play right now is a song called "Sunday Morning Coming Down," which, to my knowledge, is the only song that all four of these guys recorded individually, and it really was the springboard for Chris's career. Johnny Cash recorded this in 1970, and it was the Country Music Awards Song of the Year that year. And both Bob Dylan and Willie Nelson have talked about how there was Nashville before Chris arrived and then Nashville after, in the sense that the lyrical content that Chris brought was just so much at such a higher level than what had been coming out of Nashville prior to that, and really did change things quite a bit. When you hear this song, it feels like you're listening. It almost feels like you've read a screenplay to a movie by the time that you're done with it. So this is Sunday Morning Coming Down. Well, I woke up Sunday morning with no way to hold my head that didn't hurt. The beer I had for breakfast wasn't bad, so I had one more for dessert. rumbled in my closet, through my clothes and found my cleanest dirty shirt. I washed my face and combed my hair and stumbled down the stairs to meet the day. I'd smoked my mind the night before with cigarettes and songs that I'd been picking. I lit my first and watched a small kid playing with the can that he was kicking. Then I walked across the street and caught the Sunday smell of someone frying chicken. And it took me back to something that I lost somewhere, somehow along the way. On a Sunday morning sidewalk, I'm wishing, Lord, that I was stoned. Ah, there's something in a Sunday that'll make your body feel alone. Hell, there's nothing short of dying half as lonesome as the sound of the sleeping city sidewalk. Sunday morning coming down. In the park I saw a daddy with a laughing little girl that he was swinging. And I stopped beside a Sunday school and listened to the songs that they were singing. And I headed down the street, and somewhere far away a lonely bell was ringing. And it echoed through the canyons like I disappear in dreams of yesterday. On a Sunday morning sidewalk, I'm wishing, Lord, that I was stoned. Ah, there's something in a Sunday that'll make your body feel alone. Yeah, there's nothing short of dying half as lonesome as the sound of a sleeping city sidewalk. Sunday morning coming down. Hey, whoa, whoa. Thank you, folks. Thank you very much. I want to thank Margaret and the library for hosting me and the Cultural Council for funding the grant that allowed me to come here. Like I said, it's been an interesting thing to go around, and you know, I've lived in southeastern Mass basically my whole life. I grew up in Foxborough, and so as I drive out on the Mass Pike, I play Worcester quite a bit, and doing my own music, but it's been really funny to basically go to every single town around Worcester, and now every town around Northampton and Amherst and Springfield, and I'm getting around. So I'm gonna do a Willie Nelson song next. Willie Nelson just turned 89 years old. He just played, you know, We Think It's Hot Today. He just played his annual 4th of July concert down in Texas. I think they said it was 105 degrees the day of that concert, and Willie's still going, so good for him. And I saw him in the fall in Connecticut, and I'll tell you, I want to come back as Willie in my next life, because he had his 2 sons with him. His son Lucas sounds exactly like him when he sings, and but both of his sons play guitar, and each one of them's on each side of him playing. His sister Bobby, who just passed away, she was 91 years old. She had been his piano player since the early 70s, and she was sitting there right behind him. There's 30,000 people there singing every single word to every single song that Willie played, and you know, you can't even tell that he's really singing because it's just everybody in there knows every word to every one of his songs, and you trust that he's singing, but you're not really too sure, you know. So, but you know, I one of the things that I notice when I go around and I do this performance is that a lot of people will come up to me afterwards. They don't do it as much now because I tell this story all the time, but before I used to tell this story, people would come up to me and say, hey, you know, I love the old country music. I love Johnny Cash. I love Merle Haggard. I love George Jones. I hate modern country music, and I hate modern country music myself, but one of the things that's really awesome about Willie is that he identifies a bunch of these younger bands that are kind of carrying on the tradition of these artists, and he takes them out on tour. And so, you know, acts that if they were to come through, you know, somewhere out here or Worcester or Boston, they're probably playing in front of 500 people. You know, suddenly they're playing with Willie and they're playing in front of 30,000 people that otherwise never would have had a chance to hear them. And so, you know, I think it's a pretty awesome thing that he's done with that. And this is bless you. This is a song that was written by the great Texas songwriter Townes Van Zandt. It's called Pancho and Lefty. That was a duet that Willie did with Merle Haggard. They've been on the road, my friend. It's gonna keep you free and clean. But now you wear your skin like iron and your breath's hard as kerosene. You were your mama's only boy, but her favorite one it seemed. She began to cry when you said goodbye. Sank into your dreams. Pancho was a bandit boy, rode a horse fast as polished steel, wore his guns outside his pants for all the honest world to hear. And Pancho met his match, you know, on the deserts down in Mexico. Nobody heard his dying words. That's the way it goes. All the federalists say they could have had him any day. They only let him slip away. Out of kindness, I suppose. Now Lefty, he can't sing the blues all night long like he used to. The dust that Pancho bit down south ended up in Lefty's mouth. The day they laid old Pancho low, Lefty split for Ohio, where he got the bread to go. There ain't nobody knows. All the federalists say they could have had him any day. They only let him slip away. Out of kindness, I suppose. Poets sing how Pancho fell, Lefty's living in a cheap hotel. The desert's quiet and Cleveland's cold, so the story ends where it's told. But Pancho needs your prayers, it's true, but save a few for Lefty too. He only did what he had to do. Now he's growing old, and all the federalists say they could have had him any day. They only let him go so long. Out of kindness, I suppose. If you They could have had him any day. They only let him go so long. Out of kindness, I suppose. Thank you. Thank you very much. I'm going to do a Highwaymen song next. So the Highwaymen were all big stars by the time they kind of joined together to make this, to make their first album. They made their first album in 1985. They put out 3 albums together in 1985, 1990, and 1995. And kind of the origins of it were, it's kind of hard to believe in hindsight, but by the 1980s, early 1980s, Johnny Cash's career had really faded significantly, to the point that he was playing 300, 500 seat venues, and they were trying to figure out a way to kind of boost his appeal, because he'd obviously been a huge star for so many years. And Willie was really a superstar at that point, and they thought, well, maybe we could do a duets album between the two of them, and that might help springboard Johnny's career. And then they tried to do that, but it just didn't work. Their voices were just too dissimilar, and it just didn't line up right. And so Marty Stewart had the idea of bringing in Waylon and Chris and seeing what would happen if the 4 of them worked together. And this song, The Highwaymen, was the first song that they recorded. It has 4 verses. Each one of them did their own verse. And, I was a highwayman, along the coach roads I did ride, sword and pistol by my side. Many a young maid lost her baubles to my trade. Many a soldier shed his lifeblood on my blade. The bastards hung me in the spring of 25. I'm still alive. I was a sailor, I was born upon the tide. With the sea I did abide. I sailed around the Horn of Mexico. I went aloft and furled the mainsail in a blow. And when the odds broke off, they said that I got killed. But I am living still. I was a dam builder across the river deep and wide, where steel and water did collide. A place called Boulder on the wild Colorado. I slipped and fell into the wet concrete below. They buried me in that great tomb that knows no sound. But I am still around, and I'll always be around and around and around and around and around and around and around. I'll fly a starship across the universe divide, and when I reach the other side, I'll find a place to rest my spirit if I can. Perhaps I may become a highwayman again, or I may simply be a single drop of rain. But I will remain, and I'll be back again and again and again and again and again and again and again. Thank you. It's the first Highwaymen album. I'm going to do a Waylon Jennings song next. I find when I go around and I do this that people are less familiar with Waylon than the other members of the Highwaymen. It's funny, I before COVID, I performed down in Nashville pretty regularly, and it's always surprising to me when I'm down there, because the Country Music Hall of Fame is awesome, and then a few blocks over from there is the Johnny Cash Museum, which opened maybe about 8 or 9 years ago, and it's just it's maybe the best museum I've been in. Period. It's just so well done, the way they use modern technology. And Johnny Cash had a building called the House of Cash where his family used to work, and they would sell stuff of his for many years. So he collected everything, and so they had all of this stuff to go through, and they really made great use of it. But it's interesting to me how there's such little representation of both Waylon and Chris Christopherson nowadays in Nashville. And there's this little strip mall, maybe 10 minutes outside of downtown Nashville, and there's a general store there that they call the Willie Nelson Museum, and you can pay like $5 and you can go in, and it's like going to it's basically just a place to go buy sweatshirts that say Nashville or Willie Nelson. And then right next door to it is the Dukes of Hazzard Museum, which for those of you that aren't familiar, the only thing I knew about Waylon Jennings when I was a kid is that he wrote the theme song to Dukes of Hazzard, and that he narrated the show. And as a 10-year-old kid or whatever I was, I just knew that I loved that orange car, I loved Daisy Duke, and I loved that song. Those are like the only things I really knew. But Waylon had 18 #1 hit songs. He was a huge, huge star, and just a perfect singing voice. A true rebel. I mean, he was a wild, wild guy. And this next song I'm going to do is a song called "This Time." That's from one of his albums in the '70s, I guess. This time, if you want me to come back, it's up to you. But remember, I won't allow the things we used to do. You're gonna have to toe the mark and walk the line. This time will be the last time. This time, if I should feel unwanted, I won't stay. Each tomorrow will depend on the love you give today. It's all up to you, but keep in mind, this time will be the last time. This time should be anything like the other times. This time will be the last time. If this time should be anything like the other times, this time will be the last time. Whoa, 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 whoa. Thank you. The great Waylon Jennings. I'll do a Johnny Cash song next. There's a really terrific new book that just came out on Merle Haggard. I think it's called The Hag, I believe it's called. And it just came out in March or April. And I just ripped through that book so quickly. And if you're not familiar with Merle Haggard's story, he basically between the ages of 14 and 22 was just incarcerated on and off for about 8 years. And it wasn't a violent criminal. He didn't have a lot of drug issues back then. It was more like he was a 14-year-old kid. He would go steal a car. They'd put him in a juvenile lockup. He'd break out of the juvenile lockup. They'd put him in a more secure one. He'd break out of that one. He ended up in San Quentin prison. And so he really, really Yeah, he worked it. And Johnny Cash would go around and play all these different prisons and made live albums at Folsom Prison and at San Quentin. And when Merle saw him perform at San Quentin, he said, yeah, that's what I'm going to do when I get out of here. That's what I want to do. And Merle Haggard ended up having 30 #1 hit songs on the country charts. He had more hit songs than any of these four guys did. And collaborated with Willie quite a bit, and was friends with all of these guys. But what was interesting in the book was he didn't get to meet Johnny Cash, obviously, when he was in prison, but he got to know him once he got out. And Merle was always afraid. It's funny to think of, like, these times of like the late 60s or whatever, that how different life is now, in the sense that he had been in and out of jail. He didn't want anyone to know that he'd been in jail. He'd become a huge star, and still nobody was able to find out that he'd been in jail, because you couldn't just Google these things back then, and so he didn't know what to do, and he was afraid that people were going to find out and it was going to end his career. And Johnny Cash said, listen, you should just tell people what happened and what your story is. And so Merle went on to the Johnny Cash show and talked about that, and then a number of his songs from that point on were about his time in prison. And he always looked up to Johnny Cash and really treated him kind of like a father figure. This is Folsom Prison Blues by Johnny Cash. I hear the train a-comin', it's rolling round the bend. I ain't seen the sunshine since I don't know when. I'm stuck in Folsom Prison, time keeps dragging on. But that train keeps on the road, on down to San Antone. When I was just a baby, my mama told me, son, always be a good boy, don't ever play with guns. But I shot a man in Reno just to watch him die. When I hear that whistle blowing, I hang my head and cry. I bet there's rich folks eating in their fancy dining cars, probably drinking coffee, smoking big cigars. Well, I know I had it coming. I know I can't be free. Oh, but those people keep on moving, and that's what touches me. Well, if they freed me from this prison, and if that railroad train was mine, I bet I'd move in on a little farther down the line. Far from Folsom Prison, that's where I want to stay. Oh, and I'll let that lonesome whistle blow my blues away. Thank you very much. Thank you so much. I'm going to do a Willie Nelson song next, and I'm going to do a song that he did together with Waylon Jennings. The first country album to ever go platinum and sell 1 million records was a song called Wanted, The Outlaws, and that was an album that came out, I believe it came out in 1975, and it was Willie and Waylon, and Waylon's wife, Jessie Coulter, as well. And the song is called My Heroes Have Always Been Cowboys. I just love this song so much. I grew up dreaming of being a cowboy and loving the cowboy ways, pursuing the life of my high-riding heroes. I burned up my childhood days. I learned all the rules of a modern-day drifter. Don't you hold on to nothing too long. Just take what you need from the ladies, then leave them with the words of a sad country song. My heroes have always been cowboys, and they still are, it seems. Sadly it's searching, the one stepping back of themselves in their slow-moving dreams. Cowboys especially with their own brand of misery from being alone too long. You could die from the cold in the arms of a nightmare, knowing well your best days are gone. Picking up news instead of my pen, I let the words of my youth fade away. Old worn out saddles and old worn out memories, no one, no place to stay. My heroes have always been cowboys, and they still are, it seems. Sadly it's searching, one stepping back of themselves, their slow-moving dreams. Sadly it's searching, one stepping back of themselves, their slow-moving dreams. Thank you. Like I said earlier, I spent a lot of time looking at numbers when I was a younger, up until just fairly recently. And so I love these numbers, and I'm going to pull up this little spreadsheet here that for some reason wasn't already open. And just bear with me, folks, I'm having an issue. All right, I'm going to have to just wing it because it's not open. Between the highwaymen, between the four of them, there was 13 wives and 27 children. And so they were busy guys. And Johnny Cash had 5 kids from 2 marriages. Waylon Jennings had 5 kids from 3 marriages, I believe. And here it is. Here's my little stats. Waylon Jennings was married 4 times with 6 kids, I'm sorry. Chris Christopherson had 8 children from 3 marriages. Willie Nelson had 4 marriages and 8 children. Willie Nelson was once out on tour, and his wife received a bill in the mail from a hospital for a baby delivery, not her baby. And so she divorced Willie, and then Willie married the other woman, and then she divorced Willie as well. So love is hard, folks. Love is hard. This song is a song that Rita Coolidge did when she was Chris's second wife, I believe, that Chris and Rita Coolidge had a hit with called Help Me Make It Through the Night. Take the ribbon from your hair, shake it loose and let it fall. Lay it soft upon my skin, like the shadow on the wall. Come and lay down by my side till the early morning light. All I'm taking is your time. Help me make it through the night. Yesterday is dead and gone, and tomorrow's out of sight. And it's sad to be alone. Help me make it through the night. Tonight I need a friend. Yesterday's dead and gone. Tomorrow's out of sight, and it's sad to be alone. Help me make it through the night. I don't want to be alone. Help me make it through the night. Chris Gustav, thank you. Thank you very much. You know, it's been funny traveling around, and one of the things that I've really figured out this year from going all over the state is that you know, these songs resonate with everyone, really. You know, it's I was out in Chesterfield, Massachusetts. I don't know how far that is from here, but it's somewhere out in this world. They had, I think they have a population of about 1,000 people in Chesterfield, and they have one store, and they had this little community center that was just a small little building, and it was the first nice day of the spring. Like, it was like a Saturday afternoon. It was like 75, 80 degrees out, and I was like, there's gonna be nobody there. And I was supposed to have 2 gigs. One of them had got rescheduled, and so I was like, man, I'm driving all the way out there, and there's gonna be, you know, a handful of people there. And it was packed. There was like 75 people in there, and I was really mystified by that. And it was really when I first started to do this, and then I was talking to some folks afterwards, and they were just talking about how out in the hill towns they didn't have radio, and that at night the AM station would kick on from West Virginia, WWVA. I've learned a lot about WWVA this year, and you know, they would listen to the Grand Ole Opry on Saturdays, and some of the different honky tonk and bluegrass music that they would play, and that was, you know, the music that they grew up on and grew up listening to. And you know, Waylon Jennings once said that country music isn't a guitar, it isn't a banjo, it isn't a melody, it isn't a lyric, it's a feeling. And you know, I remember the first times I started traveling down to Texas and Tennessee to perform. You know, I was like, wait, are they going to give me a hard time about the fact that I'm, you know, like, what? I don't own a pickup truck, and I don't have a horse. And you might have thought he probably has a horse. No horses, folks. Horse free. But you know, it you know, they treat me just like they would. They don't even ask where I'm from. So, but it's really funny because I spent a lot of time down the Cape as well, and playing. I was in Chatham, Falmouth, and Brewster over the last, I don't know, week or so, and 3 of the swankiest towns there are down the Cape, and you know, a lot of folks that are down there are that either have summer homes down there, that are on vacation down there, and it resonates with them the same way that it resonates with people that, you know, from down south that you know, that this has been their music their whole life. And so I think it really speaks to just how great these songs are and how great these artists themselves are. I'm gonna play 2 short songs by Johnny Cash that I'm planning on doing this Songs and Stories thing again next year. I know we have a small crowd here tonight, but in general, it's been really, really, we've had some really terrific crowds for this, and people are always like, oh, you didn't play this Johnny Cash song. I could play 3 hours of Johnny Cash songs, and I'm pretty sure that there would still be songs that people wanted to hear. And so next year, my intention is to do an hour's worth of Johnny Cash and just dedicate it to him. These 2 songs are both from Folsom Prison, and to me, they just are such great examples of what makes him so great. My bills are all due, the babies need shoes, and I'm busted. Cotton is down to a quarter a pound, and I'm busted. I got a cow that went dry and a hen that won't lay. A big stack of bills that get bigger each day. The county's gonna haul my belongings away. I'm busted. I I went to my brother to ask for a loan. I was busted. I hate to beg like a dog for a bone, but I'm busted. My brother said there ain't a thing I can do. My wife and my kids are all down with the flu, and I was just thinking of calling on you. I'm busted. Lord, I'm no thief, but a man can go wrong when he's busted. The food that we canned last summer is gone, and I'm busted. The fields are all bare and the cotton won't grow. Me and my family, we gotta pack up and go where I'll make a living. The Lord only knows I'm busted. At my door the leaves are falling. A cold wild wind will come. Sweethearts walk by together. I still miss someone. I go out to all the parties and look for a little fun, but I find the dark and corner. I still miss someone, though I never got over those blue eyes. I see them everywhere. I miss those arms that held me when all the love was there. I wonder if she's sorry for leaving what we've become. There's someone for me somewhere. I still miss someone. I still miss someone. I still miss someone. I still miss someone. Thank you. Thank you very much. So I do a few more for you. Next song that I'm gonna do is a song by Willie. You know, I mentioned earlier that I wrote a book about these guys, and it was a fun experience because I spent a lot of years as a newspaper writer, and I was always trying to crunch in a lot of words and do a 600 word column or something like that, and so it was a lot more freeing to be able to do this. And like I said earlier, one of the things I try to do is kind of act like this human algorithm of connecting people that love old classic country music to artists that are still doing that today, that they may not be familiar with, and also talk about a lot of the changes in the music industry itself. So, for instance, I still do a ton of gigs doing my own music, and I get to open up for a lot of bands that are coming through from Texas and Tennessee and places like that, and I can tell you that I sell more CDs in libraries because it's an older audience oftentimes, and they still use CD players, and 25-year-old kids all just listen to Spotify or YouTube is how they get their music. So that revenue stream is gone, and so an awful lot of these musicians that 25 years ago, would have been driving around on a bus and living a pretty good life, are sleeping on couches now a lot when they go through and tour, and they're playing to much smaller audiences than they did back then. And trying to talk about kind of like how we got to that spot, and it's a funny thing because I've been doing music forever, and when I was a rock and roll kid when I was younger, and I had a lot of regional success in New England. But nobody knew me outside of New England, and now, with the advent of YouTube and Spotify and Apple Music, people listen to my music all over. I just got someone sent me a review from a magazine, and it's from Spain, that just reviewed a new album that I put out, and I have absolutely no idea what it says. But my daughter, who's very good at Spanish, she translated it for me, and I was like, before I share this on social media, I should probably find out if they're saying nice things about me or not. And they were, apparently, according to my daughter, anyway. This song is called "Crazy" by Willie Nelson. He made it. He wrote this, and Patsy Cline made it famous. And they claim this is the most played song in the history of jukeboxes. I don't know how that was calculated, but I trust that it's true. Crazy, I'm crazy for feeling so lonely. Crazy, crazy for feeling so blue. I knew you'd love me as long as you wanted. And then one day you'd leave me for somebody new. Worry, why do I let myself worry? Wondering, what in the world did I do? Crazy for thinking that my love could hold you. Crazy for trying, crazy for crying. I'm crazy for loving you. Crazy for trying, crazy for trying. I'm crazy for loving you. Thank you, Darryl. Thank you. I'm going to do 2 more songs for you. I have business cards, mailing list, if you're interested. Like I said, I'm going to be in every town, like every single town. Well, if I had known gas was going to be $5 a gallon, I would have done this still, because it's been really cool. But I would have rented a cabin in Central Mass for the summer, because it would have been much more efficient. But here we are. The next song I'm going to do is a song that that obviously people would associate with Janis Joplin. Me and Bobby McGee was, I would say, her most famous song. Certainly one of the most famous rock and roll songs of all time. It was written by Chris Christopherson, and Roger Miller had actually had a hit with this song on the country charts prior to Janis's recording of it. And it's a wise man once told me when I was starting out in music, they said, don't ever sing songs by people that have a better voice than you. If you're covering other people's songs, so I like to just go around and sing like Patsy Cline, and Janis and Willie and Johnny Cash. Busted flat in Baton Rouge, heading for the train, feeling nearly faded as my jeans. Bobby thumped the diesel down right before it rained. Took us all the way to New Orleans. I took my harpoon out of my dirty red bandana, and I was blowing sad while Bobby sang the blues. But them windshield wipers slapping time and Bobby clapping hands, we finally sang every song that driver knew. Freedom's just another word for nothing left in me. Nothing ain't worth nothing, but it's free. Feeling good was easy, Lord, when Bobby sang the blues. Feeling good was good enough for me. Good enough for me and Bobby. From the coal mines of Kentucky to the California sun, Bobby shared the secrets of my soul. Standing right beside me, Lord, for everything I'd done. And every night she kept me from the cold. Ah, somewhere near Salinas, Lord, I let her slip away. Looking for that home, and I hope she'll find it. I'll trade all my tomorrows for a single yesterday, holding Bobby's body next to mine. Freedom's just another word for nothing left to lose. Nothing left is all she left on me. Feeling good was easy, Lord, when Bobby sang the blues, but that was good enough for me. Good enough for me, yeah, Bobby McGee. La da 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 da, la da da da, la da 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 da, Bobby McGee. La da 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 da, oh. Thank you. I'll do one more song for you. I really appreciate you coming out and listening, and thank you again to the Cultural Council and the library for having me. The last song I'm going to do is Willie Nelson's On the Road Again, and there's a quote that I love by Willie called, he says, "We are the same, there is no difference anywhere in the world. People are people. They laugh, they cry, they feel, they love. Music seems to be the common denomination that brings us all together. Music cuts through all boundaries and goes right to the soul." And so when I was about 20 years old, I went to school at UMass Lowell, and at the time there was a Hells Angels house right next to this dive bar that my band used to play at, and it was just the scariest thing in the world. Every night that we play there, they'd come over around 11 or 12 o'clock at night, and just nothing good ever happened. And you know, we were just little, I was a little kid, you know, and just petrified of them. And they really liked our music, so they liked us, but you just never knew what was going to happen. And then I went and saw Willie Nelson play in Lowell at the Lowell Memorial Auditorium for the first time. And I remember my bass player and I were sitting there, and there was a whole row of Hells Angels in front of us, and they all had their wives or girlfriends with them. And then they'd put their arms around them when Willie would play a ballad. And then at some point they got up and started singing to "Always on My Mind," or one of his huge hits that were slow. And my bass player, I remember leaning over to me, he's like, "I didn't know Hells Angels dance." And but it's funny, I haven't been doing it as much lately, but I got a whole stack of postcards, and I would mail them out to different businesses or places and associations in town that I thought might be interested. And every time I would send one to the gun club, I would send one to the garden club, I would send one to anybody that I think, because I feel like there are almost, Willie Nelson, someone came up to me recently and they said, now that Betty White's dead, that the only two people that we can all universally agree that we love are Dolly Parton and Willie Nelson. And when you think about it, folks, that's kind of true. So I thank you for listening. This is On the Road Again. I have, if you want to sign my mailing list, I send out an email once a month and lets you know where I'm coming. I try to include some fun facts about these guys. I have a CD of me doing exactly what this, but it's flawless. Like, it's literally perfect, because that's what studios do. CDs are $10 and the book is $20. So if you're interested in any of that, come see me afterwards. Thank you for listening, and here we go. On the road again, I just can't wait to get on the road again. Life I love is making music with my friends. I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again, going places I ain't never been, seeing things that I may never see again. I can't wait to get on the road again. On the road again, like a band of gypsies, and we go down the highway to the best of friends, insisting that the world keep turning our way, and our way is on the road. I just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends. I can't wait to get on the road. On the road again, like a band of gypsies, and we go down the highway with the best of friends, insisting that the world keep turning our way, and our way is on the road. I just can't wait to get on the road again. The life I love is making music with my friends. I can't wait to get on the road. I can't wait to get on the road. I can't wait to get on the road. Thank you, folks. Thank you so much. Thank you for listening, and have a great rest of your night.